The older I get, the more I dislike winter. Hello, Troy here with SFP Nostalgia Motorsports. It's a weekday, and I took the day off to try to do some stuff around the house and in the garage a little bit. I wanted to get back on the 12 bolt and just finish that up, but there are other things I need to do. I have to gain access to the bay here with the Buick, and I also want to get working on this Buick again as well and just get the thing running. But the problem is the Falcon's blocking this, that I can't get it out. The reason it's blocking is because the drive shaft. I put a Ford 8-inch in the car. It originally had the 7¼ inch, so it has the really, really tiny drive shaft with the very, very tiny U-joints. So I was hoping I could find a conversion joint that would go from the 1310 series, which is what the yoke is, on the third member for the Ford 8-inch. So this is just a conventional 1310 U-joint. Here's the little guy that's in the Falcon right now, and you can see there's a heck of a difference here. So in the Chevelle, since that's a Pontiac rear, that took a 1330 U-joint, and it's kind of like a hybrid. It's a little bit different for the Pontiac, but it's a 1330 series. But my drive shaft in that is a 1310, so I run a conversion joint. And I might have one floating around here that I can show you. You can see it's a 1310 series one direction. The other direction here is the larger 1330 in this case, I believe. So they do make joints. The Spicer makes them as well. But I've been coming up dry with this one I need for the Falcon. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to drive to a driveline shop that I know the owners of, and I'm going to bring along my drive shaft. And we're going to determine, is a conversion joint available for this? And if not, it's not the end of the world. What then I'll do next is get a drive shaft yoke here, this part of it, and then lop the end off and weld on a 1310 series. Now the goal here is the Falcon is going to get an 8-cylinder in the future. But right now, I just need the thing to be able to be moved safely without my wife and I and my daughter pushing the darn thing around. So this way it'll allow me to move the car, and hey, if I get in a pinch, I can drive it around with a 6-cylinder. So off to the driveline shop we go. So just got back from the driveline shop, and unfortunately, going through all the catalogs and taking some dimensions, we could not find a U-joint, a conversion type joint, to go from this little rinky-dink U-joint that was found in the 7¼ inch Falcon rear and going to a 1310 joint that is for the 8-inch rear that's in it right now. We just could not find one. So next best thing to do is to lop off the end of the existing Falcon drive shaft here and weld on the appropriate yoke that allows me to run a 1310 U-joint that'll fit that 8-inch rear, the yoke. So that's what we did. It was actually pretty cheap. I did not have it balanced because at the moment I just want to move the car around. Now if everything else works out on the car as far as the transmission functioning and the engine being okay, then what we'll do is get this thing balanced up and actually take the car for a drive. First, before we install it, I'm going to spray this thing just to prevent it from corroding over winter.
Now before we put this in there, you always want to put transmission fluid on that yoke so that when it goes into the tail shaft spline, that the seal that's here and that dust boot does not get torn. So we're just going to put a little bit on there. There we go. Alright, now what we're going to do is go to the back and get the back end of the rear part of the drive shaft up into that yoke for the 8-inch rear. So here's where you have to jack up the rear, or at least if it's an open rear, you'll jack up one side just to make sure you can get the U-joint lined up with the yoke. So here we're a little bit stubborn. Let's see if, there we go. And we're nested in there. So now all we have to do is put our U-bolts in, if I can find where the heck I put them. Always make sure you have your car blocked so that it can't roll on you, and that you also have a jack stand or something under it so that it can't fall on you. Last but not least, let's put a little bit of grease in here.
So now that we have the drive shaft finally installed on the Falcon, I feel better because I don't have to just hold it in place with blocks. The other thing is I need to do next would be to connect the rear brakes. The rear brakes are not connected on the car yet, so I have to take care of that. I also need one brake hose for the back because the other one was cracked and just leaked like a sieve. So I never installed any of this after putting that 8-inch rear into that car. So I'm going to do that and then rebuild the carburetor and try to get it idling smoothly so that I can actually move it under its own power. The reason I needed to devote some time to the Falcon is because it's blocking the area to get the Buick out of the garage to do some work to that. So once the Falcon's working and moving under its own power, then I think I'm going to devote my time back onto the Buick for a little bit and then figure out the oil pressure issue with the Buick, and then I can focus back on the rear for the Chevelle. So just a ton of projects here that I have not had any time recently to work on in the last couple months really. I've just been really too busy. So in the new year, that's what I'd like to focus on. Focus on the Falcon and then come back on the Buick, and then the rear, hopefully the rear will be in the Chevelle to make some passes in the spring. So Happy New Year everybody, and keep working on your stuff. I'll be back at it very shortly.